Welcome to another show of the Three Count. It's your boys, Jaquan, Benny, and Paulinho. Let's go. All right, everybody. We're going to go and preview and predict our NXT TakeOver. Vengeance Day will be tomorrow. Let's start it off. Benny, Io Shirai versus Tony Storm and Mercedes Martinez. What do you think?
All right, I'm going to tell you right now, this is probably going to be a whole lot of me picking from the heart tonight, especially because of the fact that I've been paying very little attention to NXT. But before we even make this pick, because as I just said, have not been paying much attention to NXT. What the heck happened to Raquel Gonzalez? Did she ever get her title shot?
No.
Why is she not in here?
Because they put her in the Dusty Classic.
Yeah.
And they needed placeholders for the Dusty Classic.
God,
that's another reason why I don't think they're gonna win. That goes into my pick later.
Yeah. Well, here's my thing. All right, y'all know for a fact that I am a straight up Io Shirai stan, and this right here is the match that I think has the most opportunity for a title to change hands, and I don't think it's happening. I got Io Shirai.
Really?
I agree.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's just not enough. Like, this is one of those where, like, if they do it, it's gonna be like a like, why not? What? Like, of all people, you're gonna be like, what? Because there's no build. There's no there's no hype. There's no build. Like, they tried to manufacture some kind of beef and try to pay off the Tony Storm thing from when Tony first debuted. I think that's what
like
they're
from 800 years
do.
ago.
It was like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, maybe.
Oh, I thought you were talking about from back at Evolution.
No. I'm talking about when he re-debuted in NXT recently when Ember Moon came back the same night. So I think they're trying to pay that one off, but also, like, I guess kind of make amends with Mercedes Martinez for the whole retribution thing that they tried to drag her into, because apparently she was not happy.
I don't think any of them are.
Yeah, luckily she voiced her opinion though.
Yeah, like, she came out and was like, I'm not doing this. Like, send me back to NXT. I'm not doing this, or I'm out.
Yep. More power to her.
Yeah. So I think that's what this whole thing is about. And I think they're trying to recreate, like, that scary persona that Shayna had. But again, this is one of those matches that is like, like, of all the fact that most of the people that actually make sense to shift the titles are in the Dusty Classic is what doesn't make sense to me.
That's another issue too. We'll talk about later.
That's another problem. It's a problem, but it's a good problem to have. I think. Well, the thing is, they have so many contenders at this point. Like, there's at least 7 contenders for this title that legitimately they can just have a match. You can put the title on them and it wouldn't be that weird. They just took the 2 weakest contenders and put them in a match.
I wouldn't put Tony as a weak contender.
I only say weak because there's no build. There's nothing there.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. It's because there's no build, just like the men's elimination chamber for Drew's belt, and I'm not sure what's going on, if it's lazy booking or what, and it's annoying. More coming from the NXT side because we're not used to that.
Yeah.
Benny, who you got again? You got Io?
Io.
Jay?
I'm going to go with Io, but I wouldn't be surprised if Tony won. And Mercedes is there to take the pin. That's where I'm at with it.
I'm a little split on this one because, just like Benny, I haven't watched the show in a bit, so I'm not sure what's going on.
Y'all are just so rude. I'm so disrespectful.
I'm not sure what's going on, but I know they're building up Mercedes Martinez again.
Just so damn disrespectful. Don't give me that work shit. Everybody can watch playbacks, man.
It's work.
Here's my thing. I think Mercedes was in it to take the pin, but, like, again, I may have to agree with you guys. and say Io's going to retain. But again, like Jay said, I wouldn't be surprised if they give it to Tony.
Yeah, like I don't see them giving it to Mercedes Martinez whatsoever. Like if they do, I would be genuinely shocked and a little annoyed if they did that.
Right. Yeah, same as well, because of the fact that we just got her back on the screen, and it's like, you got a title shot already? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, nothing disrespect her, but it's just like, where's the build up for her character? It's like,
yeah, where's the payoff?
Yeah, it's like, unless at the end of the day, it's like, hey, we're sorry for what happened with Retribution. Here's the title run,
Yeah,
So,
but again,
I don't see
she's still
WWE
one
ever
of the
doing
weaker
that.
characters on the roster right now.
yeah, they still got to build her up. So
Yeah.
we'll leave the Dusty Classic for the end.
Here's the other thing that is getting me about the NXT Women's title is, and maybe this is me looking too much into what I see on Instagram, but you have this elephant in the room that is starting to get larger by the name of Xia Li.
It's
That,
not
like I said,
at
I
all.
don't.
You're looking at trust me when I tell you, this is the very beginning of her build. Like she's not getting a title shot for a while.
What I'm saying though is, if you're gonna switch it onto somebody, switch it off of Io Shirai onto anybody, I'm not expecting a major run out of them because of the fact that Xia Li is there being built up. If they are going to that, I'd honestly see this as that moment of them making up for screwing up the Kairi Sane Io Shirai beef that should have happened if they didn't snatch Kairi out of NXT.
I think you're looking because I think your bias sets in because you're such a big Xia Li fan.
Could be.
That's really what it looks like to me, because there's nothing about Xia Li's build right now that would dictate that, oh yeah, she's next in line for a run.
It depends on how they do it.
I'm
Because
telling
right now,
you,
all I've been seeing is them sitting up here having her beat up jobbers. If she goes out there and
she just kind of sparked a thing with Casey and Kaden. Like that's gonna be her next feud, because Kaden straight up just went up to the new whatever that thing is, the Zhao Chi or whatever the hell that thing, and because they're doing promos for like the whatever the faction leader, the chicken chair.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing promos for that now, trying to set up her story, talking about how she's like this princess who was in like ancient China, was tortured or I forgot what the hell the story was, but it's a compelling story, and now she like uses people to do her bidding or whatever. So they're not setting up Xia Li as much as they're setting up this new character that's like the person who's kind of like the puppeteer almost. And my expectation is that person is going to end up fighting, because right now they can't really, like, Xia Li's fine. Like her new character is dope, but if we're even going to talk about a title run for this girl, we're talking 7-8 months down the line.
I know.
Like that's how
Believe me,
far we are away from that one right now. Like Xia Li's not even on the blip for me in terms of possible women's champions right now. But I mean, at this point, I would think that Casey would get a run before Xia would. Like that's where we are at this point.
Casey Catanzaro?
Yes. Like that's how
partying during COVID.
What happened?
After partying during COVID.
I mean, again, but that's how far off we are from what's her face getting a title run, unless it's like a shock finish type situation. Come on, why is this name doing this?
Because you were slandering Xia Li right now.
It's not that I'm slandering Xia Li. I want Xia Li to get a run. It's not even about slander at this point.
That's what your game took it as.
It just doesn't make sense, yo. Like I would love for Xia Li to get a title run. I really would.
I mean, I'm not sitting up here talking about her taking the title anytime before August. I'm just saying, like,
I don't even think she's not gonna have a shot to face Io. That's where I'm at. Like, Io's gonna lose the title long before Xia is even in the conversation. It just depends on who they decide to build, and that's the part of the problem with the women's division right now. Is there's no clear cut person to be like, hey, she's next. There's like a bunch of possible people, but again,
we named one.
It's crazy
just in
to
the
say.
Dusty Classic.
You know what's crazy though? Like, we talked about like what was gonna happen. We were worried about a depleted women's division in NXT, and now we're talking about like
it's too deep now. Like it's almost too deep.
It's ridiculous.
It's like, all right, you guys they're just pumping out talent now. Like, it's ridiculous to a point where, like, if they, like, again, we're still talking about the fact that Candice hasn't even gotten her real run. Like, Candice isn't even in the conversation for a title shot right now, unfortunately. But she's one of those people where you would have really thought she would have had a title shot by now, and she would have had a title run. But she's doing such good work with Johnny that, like, I don't think they're gonna. Unfortunately, I don't think Candice is gonna get it, and that's the saddest part about it, is that I don't think Candice is gonna get the title run that she deserves. But that being said, like, it's. That's where it is.
Yeah, because that was the issue Damian Priest had with NXT, was he didn't get a title run with the main belt.
Yeah, and that was my issue with it, which is why I'm like, yo, why are we calling up Damian Priest and not Karrion Kross? Like, that's the stuff that just didn't make sense to me about this whole thing. And he has way more chemistry and seems to be way more matchups on the main roster than he does. Like, really, Santos Escobar? Like, they got him feuding with Santos Escobar right now. Because apparently Santos Escobar they don't want him to drop the title for whatever reason, unless they're literally gonna do a champion versus champion match whenever Devlin can get overseas. And that's the only reason why you have him keeping the title. Because right now it makes no sense. Because at this point, you're not even making new stars in the cruiserweight division. You're burying the cruiserweight division. Like, we're at the point now where he's held it for so long that it's burial. And it's
don't worry about it, man. Bow Wow gonna come in and take it.
Oh my God, let's not get on that. Let's not talk about that one. Like, I see it already. Like, that's the part that's annoying, is that I could see it.
Holla, player.
Like, if he comes in as a manager, then I'm cool with it. But, like, to have this man come in as talent and bury that is just, no, that's a whole lot of no for me. And then you took Anthony Joshua talking about now he want to be in wrestling. Like, yo, come on, bro.
He has no choice, bro. He has a glass jaw. He can't do boxing, bro.
Nah.
Anybody watches boxing knows Anthony Joshua has a glass jaw. So
it's crazy, yo.
Everybody wants wrestling, but the thing is I don't know if you guys heard the report, but they made money. Even though they made money, they're not giving anybody a raise or promotions. So the people in the back are pissed.
I heard that.
I'm like, yeah, bro, they about to. What? I know somebody who actually just started working for them, so it's like.
And the problem is that the reason why they're pissed more than anything is because they said they made money.
Yeah, they just signed a $1 billion deal with Peacock. I know y'all made money.
Mm-hmm.
And they cut their roster significantly. So I mean, like, I know y'all made money.
Everybody knows they made money.
Like, there's no reason for them to not be giving out bonuses or anything like there's no reason for that whatsoever.
It's Vince. He's cheap.
Of course he is.
Most billionaires are.
Yep. That's how they keep their money. Yeah. Going back to the card, we're looking at, let's see here. Do y'all want to?
Tony?
I picked Io. I picked
I
Io,
picked
but I said
Io.
I wouldn't be surprised, just like Jay, if they gave it to Tony.
Mm.
You want to hold off on the Dusty Classic
Yeah,
cards to the end?
yeah.
All right.
Yeah. No.
So the next one is will be a interesting match: Finn Balor and Pete Dunne. I think this will be a repeat of kind of like the fight between Finn Balor and Kyle O'Reilly. Jay, what are your thoughts on this one and who you got?
I don't think that they take the title off Balor until we get the whole like what's Edge gonna do, because again, Pete Dunne would be the natural successor to me. Like Pete Dunne makes the most sense, but they're not gonna do the flip flop of they're not gonna flip the title onto Pete Dunne just to flip it on to again to Karrion Kross, because it seems like if they're not going to call Karrion Kross, they're going to give him a legitimate run at the title. And that's why he's feuding with Santos Escobar right now, because they need him in a placeholder feud. Like they need him on the card, but they also need him in a placeholder feud. So it's one of those situations where it's like, oh, you know, just do this for us right now. We got you. Like once you're done, we got you. And it's just it's stupid to me, but it's just how they book now. And it's frustrating to say the least, because you're like, I understand they don't care about the cruiserweight division. Like we know they don't care about the cruiserweight division at all. The problem is that when you don't care about it so much that you literally have him beat everybody on the roster now. Like they're doing what they did with Charlotte a couple of years ago, where he's beating everyone from the new talent to the established talent to you know, like the only people he hasn't beaten was the people from NXT UK. So I mean, if they're gonna have a champion versus champion match, then by all means. If they're just gonna split the titles and have one guy be cruiserweight for NXT UK and have one guy be cruiserweight for NXT, then say it. Stop acting like they're the same title. Because at this point now it's just stupid. And it makes the whole division look dumb. And it makes the fact that they're with NXT look even more stupid. Because now at this point you're having to have most of the cruiserweights be the tag team division. Because that's essentially what the tag division is in NXT, is all the cruiserweights that you just can't figure out what to use. So I mean, like, it's dumb. It's dumb. At this point, honestly, you know who I want to see take the title? And it's gonna be really sad that this is where we are, but I want to see Ricochet come and take the title. I'd rather see him on 205 Live or on 205 Live and main event than just have him on main event doing nothing. Like, put a title on him that you don't really care about, get out of his way and let that boy work. Because at this point, they're not doing anything. And he's the only guy with the gimmick, the credentials, and the type of clout and equity that would realistically take the title off Escobar and make it believable. Because if you can't create anybody else, because the Stallion kid that you had just go on an absolute tear, you had him beat twice. Clean. Like not even like he had help from anybody. Like you had him lose clean. Why does that keep happening?
So who you got in this one? Finn,
yeah.
Benny.
I also have Finn Balor. For a different reason though. Unfortunately, I kind of sort of heard something earlier that I should not have heard. Is that WWE is planning to have the NXT title defended at WrestleMania. And the match is set to be Finn Balor defending the NXT title against blank. Meaning, unless they plan on hot-shotting this, I don't think so. He's not losing that belt.
No.
So,
and I mean,
as much
again, also, if you're going to have the NXT title defended, then I think personally, you should have it be against someone from the main roster. Because, I mean, if you're going to have a WrestleMania type match, the only match I can see Finn Balor getting that's like that's the type of match that would warrant WrestleMania is if it's like a returning Samoa Joe or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Or Edge.
And that's how you jumpstart Samoa Joe's comeback. Like that's the only one that makes sense to me. because there isn't really anybody, unless you're really going to pull the trigger on the Edge thing and do that twice in a row, which I really don't think they're going to do.
No.
Because I think that the Edge Roman Reigns thing is pretty solidified.
Yep.
Unless they change it out of nowhere for whatever reason, even though, again, I loved the chemistry between them. Like, I loved what they did with the Edge calling like Pete Dunne, like, you're another me, blah, 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 that whole thing. I love that. It's just, like, what do you do with it now? Like, what are we going to do with this now that you've kind of gotten into a place where Edge is like, you know, I use this to come back. Like, I was in love with this product, yada, yada, yada. Like, what are you going to do with it now is my question. And if they're going to have it be at WrestleMania, like, you have to have it. You can't have it be a situation where Finn is just defending against some random NXT guy that we don't know, that has no equity. The Finn versus, like, Adam Cole is always an option, even though they've kind of taken him out of the title picture for now. But he's the type of talent where you can put it back in there and it's going to be great. But I mean, we've seen that already.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. Like, you can't really bring up anybody that, like, you've seen already. Like, I could see it be maybe Kevin Owens, possibly. Like, they can bring in some former champions and do that, or it could be someone who's debuting that we don't know about. That's a pretty big star. But again, with Switchblade going back to New Japan, I really can't think of anybody that would again warrant that type of marquee.
I'm going also with Finn. I like Pete. We like the way he came back. Look, my boy, look Diesel. I just don't feel like they're gonna put on him right now yet.
No.
So
I mean, the match could definitely be against Pat McAfee.
I think it should have been against Pat McAfee.
Well, again, for some reason they took Mac off TV, and I don't know why.
I know he had injuries.
It wasn't, according to him, it wasn't serious enough for them to take him off TV. It definitely was not serious enough for that. So I don't even know what that's about.
Well, we got to remember too, it's not just his injuries that he had. It was also the injuries for the Undisputed Era. Like, a lot of them were like broken.
True.
So it's like that feud, you can't do one without the other one. Because as you see, they're both factions like pretty much off the air right now.
Yeah.
So let's go to the next match. The Johnny Gargano versus Kushida is back on.
This one is tough. I'm gonna go with Johnny only because I don't think they want to put the title on Kushida. They don't. They really don't, and you can tell they don't, because if they did, they wouldn't keep adding Dexter Lumis into everything. And originally, if you remember, some time back, the plan was to put the North American title on Dexter Lumis, and then he got hurt. So I think they're gonna pull the trigger on the Dexter Lumis run, which is why Dexter Lumis keeps popping up every single time. But I think Kushida is a really good placeholder. But with the way, I think it's going to be a dusty finish. But I do think Gargano walks out with the title.
Benny?
This is going to be a really boring prediction show because I don't think any of us are disagreeing on anything. Yeah, Gargano, I believe that they like the way too much and the work that they're doing. On top of the fact that Johnny Gargano's been North American champion twice before. Neither of them have been extensive reigns. No. I feel like this right here will be, and probably should be, considering all of the work that he's done, his extensive reign. Give him the title, let him run with it, let him build that title up even more than what it already is. Even though I can't stand the look of it.
I like the look of it personally.
I hate that.
I don't know what's the issue.
I'm a little.
I don't understand the issue with it.
because just like Benny says, he's never had a long title run with his belt. So it's like, does he keep it? Do they put in Kushida for a moment?
No,
because North American title has kind of been a hot potato once in a while, every so often.
It does.
So it's like
every once in a while it does, but I don't think, again, because of the fact that now they've gotten to a place with Kushida where he doesn't talk, I don't see them putting the title on him.
I'm gonna go on the limb. I'm going with Kushida.
All right.
I'm gonna go with Kushida on this one. All right, now we're getting into the nitty gritty. Now we're going into what the big matches are for this card, the finals for the Dusty Classic. The issue I've had with this tournament is the fact that the men had an extra round more than the women.
They got more teams.
But the thing is, it's like the thing is that the women only allowed teams from NXT. They didn't bring any from the WWE, from the main rosters.
Yeah.
You could have had it with the main roster and extended it some more in order, and you could even brought those matches onto the main roster, onto the main shows.
I mean, they had them on 205 Live, so I mean,
I'm talking about Raw, SmackDown, man. 205 Live don't count, bro. 205 Live don't count.
I
mean, you can have.
I think keeping them separate is probably what keeps the Dusty Classic so special, because if like guys want to come back and was like, oh, I want to compete in the Dusty Classic, like for example, say if the New Day said I wanted to compete in the Dusty Classic, they would have to go to NXT to do it, which makes NXT like that much more. It's still a part of the main roster, but it's exclusive in its own, like it's its own thing. I think if you kind of convolute it too much with the main roster, it's like then it becomes subject to the booking of the main roster. That's the problem.
Yeah, I get it, but the thing being now is, as if somebody has realized, Jay brought this up earlier, is the winner on the women's side, the winner of the Dusty Classic gets a title shot at the women's tag team title belts. So let's look at the finalists on the women's side. We got Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart versus Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez, which, interesting enough, Ember Moon and Shotzi beat The Way in order to get to the finals. And so that should have been a good match. 15-minute match almost. And then you had Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez beat out Casey Catanzaro and Kaden Carter. So that should have been a good match. And those
that was actually a really good match.
And they actually beat Mercedes Martinez and Toni Storm in the first round, or in their quarterfinal match.
Mm-hmm.
Which on paper you'd be like, it's not going to happen, but they saw something in those two, which is crazy.
I think too, they're an actual duo. Like they've been a duo for some time, so it's good to see the actual like people who you put together initially actually, get pushed to the finals. The only problem is that I would have liked to see Casey and Kaden, because they've been booked as a tag team for so long, have them be in the finals and have them be the main showcase. But this one is tough. I'm gonna let you finish, but this one is tough for a number of reasons.
Yeah, on this one, I don't know who to pick between these two. My gut is telling me Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez, because that little duo right there is pretty good, but my mind is telling me Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart. So I'm going with my mind, and I'm going with Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart on this one.
I think this one just comes down to matchup, because because of the fact that Raquel Gonzalez still needs work, and that's my biggest thing, is that she's still rounding out into her own. And you look at the matchup and you look at the histories between everyone, Dakota and Shayna have a lot of history. Like there's a lot of history there, and you can use that history to build out a WrestleMania title shot. Raquel is probably the only woman on the main roster that's not Charlotte or Bianca or Rhea that physically can match up with Nia. So I think that in and of itself is what makes it interesting. But the other side is you have the star power of Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon. But what I will say is booking them for a tag team title run does not make a lot of sense for two reasons. Where's my camera? Two reasons. The first one being because they have so much star power, because Ember Moon came back with the mindset of, I'm not coming back to make friends, I'm coming back to win championships. It doesn't make sense for her to then win a tag team championship. Doesn't make sense. Also, the fact that Shotzi, they kind of put a rocket on her, but they're putting her in this situation where she's getting pushed, but not getting pushed as a singles competitor, but her name is getting out there, her character's getting out there. She's having that face time. I feel like they're still building her as the face to build around moving forward, as kind of like the face, like the good guy in the women's division. So I don't think that they would then take all of that work and have them lose to Nia and Shayna. Here's the problem. The reason why I think Ember Moon and Shotzi are going to win is because of the fact that if they book Dakota and Raquel versus Shayna and Nia, you have heel versus heel.
There you go. I was waiting for it to come out.
That is the problem. But there's a way to book it where it's just a blood feud, because you have the fact that Shayna did take Dakota out twice for an extended amount of time and put her on the shelf twice, which caused her heel turn initially anyway. You have the story of like Shayna's constantly beating Dakota at every turn. And now that Dakota has backup, she might be able to finally get her comeuppance on Shayna. And then you have the fact of Raquel, again, putting her in the tag team title picture. You not only give the face value to the titles to new fresh faces, but you also now have it where it makes sense for for them to be on all three shows. Or you have it where it's strictly on NXT and the women in the main roster now have to go to NXT to challenge for the titles, which again gives more levity to NXT from a women's tag division. So that's why this one's tough. Plus, there is, like, I've heard it more now than I've heard it in months past, that Triple H is working on another women's NXT title, as in a mid-card title. So I'm not sure if you want to then take Shotzi and Ember out of that title picture. Raquel and Dakota you can take out simply because Dakota's lost when challenging for the title so many times, and Raquel is probably not ready to challenge for a title just yet outside of the tag team titles. So that's why this one is so hard to predict, because both make sense and make no sense at all. And that's the tough part. But I'm going to go with Shotzi and Ember only because it's a big pay-per-view and you're probably going to want to see, they're probably going to want to go with the whole story of like the faces going over. But if they do win, I will say that means we're probably going to have another extended title run for Shayna and Nia, or Shayna and Nia are going to drop the titles before WrestleMania. So yeah, I'm going to go with Ember and Shotzi. But this is a 50-50 one, honestly.
This is all 50-50 booking almost here.
Kind of, but some of it you can kind of call like, all right, this makes sense. But this one, more than any other match to me, is 50-50 booking. Like they might call this right before they go out just because of, It's like what's your favorite ice cream in this situation? Like that's really what, because you kind of have a built-in story whichever way you go, but because again, Ember Moon was also on the main roster and also ran into Nia Jax more than once, and I think Nia Jax actually may have put Ember on the shelf or contributed to it. I don't remember.
And don't remember just because of this everything going on with this pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they're traveling. It's not like they're at different shows.
Yeah,
it's,
like
it's
they're all
just
in.
it's,
They're all
it's
in.
just
Tampa
a drive.
anyway.
It's a drive. That's it. Orlando to Tampa. That's it. That's all it is.
Yeah. So
you know,
I
it's
mean,
not that far.
There's built-in history, especially from Shayna's perspective. There's built-in history everywhere. And that's what really makes this intriguing. But it's the fact that it's weird because it's like the way Dakota and Raquel has been booked throughout this tournament. It depends on who. Like they had them only facing hyper babyface teams, like uber babyface teams outside of the first matchup with Tony and Mercedes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the tough part. And I mean, again, if they go over, they go over. Like I would prefer if Dakota and Raquel won. I would very much prefer that because I would very much prefer to see that Diesel Shawn Michaels dynamic, because that's essentially what they're booking them as. It's like a Diesel Shawn Michaels situation. And I would much rather see that dynamic with the tag titles and see the fact that Dakota's made a bunch of enemies everywhere. Like she's made nothing but enemies over the last year. So putting the title on her puts the titles in play for NXT while still having it where Ruby and now it makes Ruby and Liv Morgan viable challengers. It makes Mandy and Dana Brooke viable challengers now. Like it puts a lot more teams in play.
Yeah.
If you put it on,
on either one of these teams. If
you put it on either one of these teams, the fact that Nia Jax has the tag titles to me doesn't put, like, again, it's making her a comedy act.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then you're taking like that venom. It's like what Corey Graves said about Asuka. Like you miss those NXT characters, where you miss NXT Asuka, you miss NXT Shayna, because you almost had to you put them in a place where they're comedy acts now, and like they're slapstick acts, and it's like, nah, Shayna, you should have gave Shayna her crew by now. Like her crew should be ready to go by now.
It should. It's still green. I mean,
I haven't seen them on TV at all, so I don't even know if both of them are training. But I know neither of them have gotten released.
Yeah, one of them had a match earlier.
Oh yeah, Marina Shafir was in one of the early tag teams
against Ember and Shotzi.
Yeah. So, but that's what I'm saying. But her partner wasn't Jessamine Duke; it was one of the new recruits.
Yeah, Zoe Stark.
So that's my only like, what's going on with Jessamine? Like, what's the problem? Because she's on technically WWE's digital platforms with Up Down Down and BRE Start. Like she's hurt. I don't think she's been hurt. Honestly, I've not seen anything that would suggest that she's been hurt. So I don't know. I haven't seen anything about it. That's all I can say.
Benny, what's your take on this women's Dusty Classic final?
Honestly, I think just because of the fact that, and even though this is NXT and the rules don't really apply this exact same way, I still have this feeling that they don't like doing heel versus heel.
Yeah.
And because of the fact that even though we're talking about an NXT tournament, the women's tag team titles are still very much WWE titles. So even though, we all have expressed our opinions on exactly how they should be used, that's not necessarily the case. So I'm going to go with, for more than just this one particular reason, I'm going to go with Ember and Shotzi, just to set up, like I said, to set up the heel versus face dynamic, in which at that point, I don't really care who wins that match. but for the other reason that I honestly think that we're waiting. I don't know exactly when they're going to be planning on pulling the trigger on this one, but we're waiting for the inevitable breakup of Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. And you don't necessarily know if this is the point that this is going to be the catalyst for it.
Yeah.
The fact that they couldn't get over this hump, that they couldn't actually win this tournament and get the title shot.
And the fact that Dakota is kind of getting left behind and Raquel's
Right.
starting to shine.
I could see it where it's like Dakota is portrayed as the weak link, and that's when Raquel goes off.
I could, but I could also see it as because Dakota's always been seen as a weak link in whatever partnership she's been in, she just snaps.
Yeah.
And I think that's a more interesting story to me, honestly.
And because of the fact that if you have Paul's scenario go through, you're essentially saying that Raquel is going to stay the heel.
Yeah.
And you would flip Dakota Kai back to face. And are we really going to do that immediately? Well, I'll say immediately because NXT pay-per-views come around so infrequently. But it still feels like it's recent, even though we're talking War Games 2019 that she turned heel.
Yeah, I know. So it's like she could still be a heel, though. I mean, doesn't necessarily have to turn face. It could.
No, I'm just saying if she takes her out like that, if she takes out her frustrations on Dakota, you're essentially trying to make some type of you're trying to make some type of a sympathetic character out of Dakota, and I don't know how you make a sympathetic heel.
I don't know. I mean, I still think it could go through, but without changing her into like a heel or a face. Sorry.
It's kind of the situation. Like the only way. The thing is, the problem is like you would almost have to do it the way you did Sasha and Bayley, but Sasha is a tweener now because she's not necessarily a face, but she's also definitely not a heel.
Sasha's always been face in my book.
She's probably she's one of those types where it's like, is she a face? Is she a heel? What really is she? We really don't know.
It's gonna be interesting, but like we said, it's like we see this one being the most easy one to pick out of the two. The next one is the men's final, which is MSK, which is who's that called?
The Rascals.
Yeah, Nash Carter and Wesley versus the grizzled young veterans of James Drake and Zach Gibson.
This one is actually not as easy as you think because I can't figure out if they would literally have GYV make the finals 2 years in a row and have them lose 2 years in a row. That's the problem, is that they were also in the finals last year. And I think they were against Imperium last year and lost. So, but then again, they're pushing MSK to the moon. So you kind of got to look at it too. This is another one of those situations is, are they going to push the team are they going to do the heel versus face booking here? Or are they just going to push the team that makes storyline sense? Yeah, like where are we going with this?
They lost to the bros or weights.
Which again, stupid. Really stupid, but whatever.
Yeah. This one's really tough because I mean, if we look at MSK's run, they beat Jake Atlas and Swerve Scott, your boy. Then they beat Drake Maverick and Killian Dane. They beat Jaquan's favorite, Legado del Fantasma, to get to the finals. And Grizzle Young Veterans didn't have an easy task either, though.
Not at all.
They got Ever Rise. Then they got Kushida and Leon Ruff. And then they beat Tommaso Ciampa and Timothy Thatcher to get to the final.
All right, it's a little easier than I thought, but
it's still, though, I mean, it's not that much easier, you know. So I mean,
some solid teams.
They're solid teams, you know. They're a solid team, so it's like no squash matches.
No, not at all. Like there was never any matches where you can look at it and be like, oh yeah, no, they're definitely gonna win. But I kind of figured these are the two teams that would be in the finals because one, they were probably the only two actual teams for one thing, and they wouldn't bring grizzled young veterans over if you're not gonna put them over.
Yeah,
that's just the problem. I don't know if you're gonna put them over MSK.
Here's my problem I have though, is you had Imperium lose to Lucha House Party in the first round, and then you had them face off Legado del Fantasma in the second round. So you're telling me you had Lucha House Party beat Imperium just so that they could lose to Legado del Fantasma?
Yes,
and it's just it's dumb. I would rather have seen Imperium versus Legado del Fantasma.
Here's the thing.
And
the problem with Imperium is I think it has something to do with the fact that did they have to leave? Because I remember seeing something about them possibly going back over to England.
They probably had to go back because there's another quarantine going over there. So I'm wondering if they had to go back for that to be with their families. But I mean, at that point, it's like you to me, them losing in the first round to Lucha House Party makes them look weak.
I mean, again, you don't for NXT, you don't need them to look strong. That's the thing. Yeah, you have to look at what continuity are we talking about. What they do in NXT has nothing to do and have no bearing on what they do in NXT UK. They're the powerhouse in NXT UK because of Walter. Without Walter, they're a regular team. So whether they win or lose is irrelevant. It's like when the New Age Outlaws would lose, even though Triple H and Shawn Michaels were on a tear or something. They're a regular team on their own. When you are debuting them with Walter on the other hand, and Walter's there and Alexander Wolf is there and those guys, then you can book them strongly. But in this one, they're a squash team. Like they're whatever. Like it's not like we gave y'all your title run. Y'all had the titles. Y'all had both NXT tag team championships. Y'all good. Like they're not gonna bring them up to the main roster apparently. Like obviously. So they're good. Like
yeah, they'd have to bring the whole squad of Imperium into the main roster.
Like that's the thing. You can't bring them up separately like that. And you already tried bringing Alexander Wolf up, and it ain't work. So nah. Nah.
Who you got in this one, Jay?
I'm gonna go with MSK. Dang. Just because of the fact that like they're not gonna do the heel versus heel thing. Because again, you have to realize the champions are Danny Burch and Orny Lorcan. So unless somehow some tag team steps up and beats them, it doesn't make sense. Now, putting the titles on MSK puts the titles back into the tag team realm, and it takes them away from that faction. Because now that what's his face is not there, Pat McAfee's not there, Danny and Oni are tag team champions, and you don't see them. You see them come out with Pete Dunne, but that's it. And them being a faction now doesn't make any sense without Pat McAfee. They don't make sense. There's no common ground, there's no common enemy, there's no nothing. So they're gonna have to take the titles off them anyway. So and again, if you're gonna hot shot a tag team who has the resume that the Rascals do, put it on them. Like, well, there's no reason to wait for it. Like, there's no reason to delay them just being champions and to try and build them. Like, this isn't the main roster. We don't need to reestablish who they are. The NXT crowd knows who they are very well. They knew them before I even knew who the hell they are. They were telling me who the hell they were. Like, they're very, very much established. So, like, why not just put the titles on them? Plus, you have to, like, it's a good way to get their gimmick over, show that WWE is actually invested in them, and to put them now at the forefront of the tag division that has relatively been quiet ever since, Undisputed Era decided to do whatever it is they're going to do. So yeah, that's my vote.
Benny?
The marijuana smoking kids for 3 words. And
I still have no idea what MSK stands for, so that might just be it.
That is just, my reasoning is literally 3 words long. Shiny new toys. That's it.
Yeah.
That's literally it. They're the shiny new toys. And I think that NXT is ready to play with their shiny new toys.
Yeah.
I'm serious. That was it. That's my explanation.
I mean, it don't need to be that complicated, honestly.
And I wouldn't be surprised if that was MSK stands for marijuana smoking kids. I wouldn't doubt it. I agree. I think it's gonna suck for the grizzled young veterans, but I agree with MSK winning this one. I think it's gonna be a good match. It might be a match that you're not expecting to be a good one, but I think they're gonna put on a show for us. So we pretty much agreed on all the cards except for the one with Kushida and Gargano. I got Kushida on that one, but everything else is pretty much agreed on.
I don't know why you did. That's the hill you choose to die on, but by all means, I think that's just you hope that Kushida gets the run. I don't see them like it's no shade against Kushida, but like they had to turn him basically aggressive face for him to get any sort of momentum because his gimmick just doesn't get over in America. And like it's more so for the independent fans that are like, oh my god, yeah, Time Splitter, yeah, freaking the Back to the Future thing. But regular fans aren't gonna. It's the same way where like Ricochet got over in NXT with his superhero gimmick, but has not gotten over.
But that's the thing though. When you compare Japan and American promotions, in Japan the shows it's just like it's all about the entrances and the show, not about gimmicks. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Here it's that plus gimmicks.
Mm-hmm.
So for Kushida it's a little different. Something happened with Kenta. Something happened with who else? There's a couple other ones that came here and didn't have issues. Shinsuke. Because why? Because when you watch them in New Japan and everywhere, they got an entrance, they got a look, but then it's like when you give them a gimmick, try and find the gimmick from that, like they have none. It's just Japan's different. It's different, and AEW I think is kind of following in their footsteps, which is fine. It's just people
like
need
there's
to
a niche for that, but it doesn't work for the WWE product.
No, it's different. That's what I'm saying. Fans need to know the difference. And not be like, oh, AEW is better than WWE or WWE is better than AEW. They're both different. It's just different, the way they are. That's why you can have some wrestlers leave WWE and be more effective in AEW because they're not worried about a gimmick. They're like, I'm just gonna be me. That's it. This is who I am. I don't have to worry about no gimmick and all that stuff. It just works. Look at Moxley, look at Miro,
Yep.
So it just works. But thank you everybody for joining us on this NXT Vengeance Day preview prediction show. And let's see what happens tomorrow. Let's see what we got. We pretty much
all of us got everything wrong.
Well, here's the thing though. It's like the only thing that's different is the Kushida Gargano one. So
that match is gonna end in a draw.
double count out.
But then technically it's still a win because then freaking Johnny would keep the belt.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us, everybody. Until next time. Later.